Welcome into the Door Report. It is episode 207 on a Monday night, a couple days after Vanderbilt wins their fifth in a row, and they never lost again. I love seeing that tweet from Chad Bishop. It is another episode. We're powered by Alaco Fine Wood Floors, family owned and operated for more than 2 decades. Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors since 1995. Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you're interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue out in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303 or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. All right, boys, let's get into it. We got an Auburn game to recap. We're going to talk about Vanderbilt's tournament chances now. They're on the bubble. I guess you could say that. They're number 81, according to Joe Lunardi. They are on his considered list, considering. Lunardi is considering Vanderbilt. So we'll get into that. Also, Byrum's betting corner for the LSU game Tuesday night. And we'll get to some of your fan comments and questions. This is going to be a beefy one. I already imagine, guys. But, well, I'll start with you here. What is the initial reaction after the fifth straight game? It almost similar to the Florida win in football. It's almost like Vanderbilt's starting to win consistently at a level that we haven't seen in 5-6 years at the two sports that matter. It's almost like, is this actually happening? Like, is this real?
It's always the old, what is the old saying? Like the night is darkest right before the light, or whatever it is. What I'm messing that up pretty
Right before
badly,
the
but
dawn, baby.
but yeah, right before the dawn. That's right. But that is what I wish I could have prepped for before I get into anything. Is I got a text like 2 minutes before we hopped on recording here, and I had not seen any warnings from Billy or Trevor about recording this evening. So I wish I was more well prepared. But Vanderbilt basketball, 5 games in a row, 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, you could not have found a fan base and a program in a more different spot than they are right now. The opposite of positive momentum, negative momentum, if anything, was what this program had. And now you're sitting at 8-6, tied for what, fifth in the
Yep.
conference right now. With Auburn at 8-6, likely looking at an opportunity to not just not play on Wednesday, but also not play on Thursday of the
Ooh.
SEC tournament and get that double bye if you continue to win late in this favorable SEC schedule. I was there. Billy, I know you were there. Trevor, I know you were there. We all saw each other at some point in that great Saturday day and night. But I have one comment. Billy was wearing some fantastic white pants. Before I even realized it was Billy, I saw a guy in his seat, or not in his seat, the only guy not in his seat, him and the guy next to him, I found out later, is Billy's brother. Once he turned around, but all I saw was these white pants just glowing, and somebody waving their arms up in there, amplifying the crowd and yelling. And then Jacob Scholl, who was sitting next to me, said, that's Billy. And he turned around, and I was like, wow, Billy has been hitting leg day, number one. And number two, those are some fantastic pants. So I also saw you, Trevor. I talked to you for a bit, you and your dad, and you stopped by the little get together tailgate excuse for drinking on a Saturday in the pretty solid weather that we had. But Trevor, what was your experience like, and what are you taking away from this 5 game win streak?
I mean, yeah, the vibes around Vanderbilt basketball for literally even after the Memphis game were piss poor to say the least. The vibes have drastically changed. I mean, like a complete 180. Vanderbilt is playing really good basketball against solid opponents. And even after they dug themselves into a 6 foot grave, they have somehow found themselves with a chance to go to the tournament, which, whenever you think about it, is honestly insane. So, credit to Jerry, credit to the team. I mean, they've turned it up after the Alabama game. There is two completely different teams. You can't even compare them. Um, but I mean, Saturday was an absolute fever dream. Saturday was electric. Shout out to the fans who showed up, but most importantly, shout out to the students. The student section was jam packed. And I remember like me and my dad got into the gym probably 30 minutes or so before tip. And the student section was crazy thin. Like it was just like the first couple rows. And my dad was like, how could they not show up for this game? He's like, are you serious? Like, where are they? And I like looked up at the clock. I'm like, Dad, there's 25 minutes left. They're gonna show. And then by the time the national anthem came, it was full. And they were going insane all game long, coming up with some absolutely wonderful chants that we cannot repeat on this program, but it was electric. The students were electric, the fans were electric, but really shout out to the students. They came and it was the student section was jam packed. There was no empty seats.
No. Yeah. I think a lot of football guys were up there taking up some space. I know they've extended the band like up into the middle part of that section too, a little bit. But guys, it's a big section. I mean, it's not a small student section. Like a lot of schools have just those first like 10 rows, like along like a beyond the bench. And that's it. Like that's what Auburn has. Yeah. Of course they pack it 30 minutes before.
I'm so glad you said that, Billy, because that's always one of my big things that I always say is everybody, I think, compartmentalizes or doesn't do a good job, I should say, of compartmentalizing Vanderbilt football stadium and Vanderbilt basketball gymnasium and Memorial Gym. Memorial Gym is not a small basketball gym. It seats 15,000 or close to it.
Almost 15,
and that student section is a full portion of that. I would say probably like 1/7 or 1/8.
There was no
of Memorial
fans
Gym
in that section.
And you're combining that with like by far the smallest undergrad student population in the entire SEC. So that means that percentage wise, to pack out that thing like they did, like the students did, that's a high percentage of your student body that is coming out there compared to other SEC schools like Auburn or like other miscellaneous schools across the conference that have much smaller areas that are just like this roped off regular section.
Yeah, you look at Michigan State, Duke. I mean, those are tiny sections. Vanderbilt, that's one of the bigger student sections. Trey Thomas said it perfectly, I thought, guys. He said our students match the energy of the Auburn fans in the building. I mean, there was a bunch of blue and orange. I almost forgot their team's colors. A lot of blue and orange in the building. But yeah, Trey Thomas, I thought he said it well. They match their energy, and we'll get into all that. But before we do get to the recap and everything we got to get to, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at @door_report and Instagram door.report. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes. All right, let's recap that Auburn game. All right, guys, Vanderbilt beats Auburn 67-65. They improved to 15-12 on the season, 8-6 in the conference. Auburn falls to 18-9, also 8-6 in the conference. Vandy now owns 5th place. Actually, I know you said they were tied, Will, but so technically they do have that tiebreaker over Auburn in that 5th place spot. So if the SEC tournament started today, Vanderbilt would have control of that 5th spot. Now it doesn't, so things can still happen. Vandy can still lose a game here or there, but Auburn will, as you mentioned, they've now lost 4 of their last 5 games. You talked about their reeling heading into the Vanderbilt game, and they've now lost 4 of their last 5. Vandy's first 5-game win streak since 2017, I think. I saw a graphic. I think that year is right, since 2017, and that's a while, guys. I mean, that's almost 6 years to the day. Ezra Manjon, of course, had the opportunity, didn't get going until about 3.5 seconds on that clock, but he quickly, I mean, that burst was unlike anything I think I've ever seen in that gym. And then 0.3 seconds left as Jordan Wright stepped to the free throw line, which that review, whatever the hell they were reviewing, I think they were obviously reviewing the foul on Jordan Wright, took way too long. Also, there's no way in hell that shot from Byrum would have counted. I mean, there's people.
Yeah, I went through that big rant. Thank you, Jesus. Yes, you can't
there's
catch a ball and launch it in under 0.3 seconds. Sorry, Bill.
But yeah, I saw a tweet. God. My brother and I were laughing at this tweet for, I think, the rest of the night. Matthew Fisher Davis said that would be the most Vandy way to lose if Bro would have hit that shot.
I will say I'd run down to you, Billy. But I'd run down to you, I think, at that point. And we'd already celebrated the victory. And when he caught that, launched it, I knew in my head it was impossible, and like they would go back and review no matter what. But I remember we had a perfect angle on it, and I remember just like thinking in my head, like, son of a bitch, that is going in. Like, I was very calm about it. Like, I wasn't even like, there was no anger. I was just like, this feels right. Like, this
feels
just
prophetic.
He's just gonna sink it. Like, even though I know it's not gonna count, it's gonna create that the highlight of the night is focused on Auburn launching that ball with 0.3 seconds for a shot that doesn't count and doesn't matter, instead of Vanderbilt going on a 5-game win streak. So thank God he didn't hit that shot. So back to whatever you were talking about before I interrupted.
It is never easy, guys. There's never a convincing, especially this season. I mean, the margin of victory, I don't think they've won a game by more than 8, if I'm not mistaken. So the margin has been very small in all their wins and most of their losses too. So Stackhouse had just an electric quote after the game. They had us buried, but we back alive. I mean, there's not a better quote. I mean, he walked out after that. He said, I'm done after that. So
see, look, you can make those weird quotes after you win 5 in a row. Look, Stack, now we love those quotes. Like, but if you like, now you can say whatever weird stuff you want to, and we love it.
You can dye your hair blue and no one will care. Like,
literally. Vandy Twitter icon, HMD Sports Blog VU literally tweeted, he's like, I will stand in Stackhouse's bread line if he keeps going like this. And like, that is the sentiment of all Vanderbilt fans, is like, I don't care what you say, just win.
It's crazy that we're saying this now, guys. And I know we've got comments from people saying, explain how wrong your takes were. We did that last episode. Will admitted it. I admitted it. Trevor admitted it. So there's nothing else to say. We were wrong. We were all dead wrong. Now, maybe to different degrees, but you said it, Trevor. It's such a tired argument. Like, the fact that people are still bringing it up is honestly kind of funny.
Well, and it's crazy too, because like, sports are so fluid. Like, sports are hyper fluid,
especially basketball.
And so like you can say something in the moment that is very true. That's why, like, I hate the freezing cold takes Twitter. Like, it's funny whenever like losers on social media who I hate get like ratioed by that account. But like, it's also true that like, you can say like, this team sucks at this specific time in history, and it be true, and then like 2 months later they don't suck anymore. Like, that's just sports. Like, I really do think, and I don't want to keep harping on it, but like, I really do think you would be hard pressed to find like a fan who after that Bama game wasn't like,
no,
dear God, what is going on?
The vast majority, the vast majority of Vanderbilt fans were in agreement with us. I mean,
I just think that we also don't want to sound like I at least don't want to sound like I'm just being like, oh, like whatever, because I wish I would have I got caught up in the emotion of it for fully calling for Jerry to be fired and calling for the coaching change. And that's where I think I was also I like to come on and be like, hey, we were also, me and you, Billy, were pretty vocal about needing Derrick Mason to be fired. And we were very right on the need for Derrick Mason to be fired. We're vocal on Bryce Drew, but on this podcast with Jerry Stackhouse, being vocal about that one, I was wrong. So like, as of right now, I'm not like, give him a lifetime deal, I'm on board, I back Stack, but clearly this program is still moving in the right direction. And I had a misconception of the state of that locker room and the state of the program to be able to turn it around like this. So that is where I put it, is like, I was just wrong. Now move on and stop being like, so you like mad how good Stackhouse is doing? I'm like, no,
it's ridiculous.
Like, I'm very happy that, this program didn't spiral and burn and Jerry Stackhouse isn't leaving Vanderbilt in disgrace. Like, that wasn't what I wanted to happen. Like, that wasn't what I was rooting for to happen. That's just what I thought was going to happen and probably was likely to happen, and I was wrong. And I think we were all wrong.
It's called natural human instinct. I mean, I think that's what we were all practicing.
Just being
in the
a fan.
Moment. Yeah, and
just being a fan.
And that was the majority of Vanderbilt fans. I'm confident in that. And people that cover Vanderbilt thought the same exact thing. So anybody saying, we were out of our minds for thinking that, some of the things we said maybe went a little too far, but the overarching theme of what we were talking about was fine and correct in the moment. So, obviously we've got a lot of comments. The fact that we're even still talking about it is kind of annoying. But guys, Vanderbilt right now in the net, this is confusing. I saw you tweet about it, Will. They're still number 89 in the net. And I don't understand it, quite frankly. I know there are a lot of people up in arms about this, deservedly so. I get where you're coming from, but I did see a great tweet from Blake Lovell from southeastern14.com. He said he had a Vanderbilt fan comment to him that's saying that this is preposterous. How is Vanderbilt still this far behind? Blake said, not saying I agree with it, but here is part of the reason. 11 of Vanderbilt's 15 wins this season are by 8 points or less. 8 of them are by 5 points or less. You combine scoring margin with a quad 4 loss and 12 total losses, including a 57-point loss, and the metrics aren't convinced. And I think that was 100% right on factual from Blake. And if you guys don't follow him, he covers SEC basketball for Southeastern 14, does a phenomenal job. But guys, I mean, I think he's right there. Vanderbilt's wins haven't been convincing. Not that they've necessarily had to be, because I don't think you have to be convincing when you beat Tennessee at home. I don't know that the Auburn game had to be convincing, but at this moment in the season, I just don't think there's enough. Like right now, I don't think they're a tournament team. I would not put them in the tournament. But guys, and we'll get to this later, say they win out, there's no other option than to put them in. And I think they would probably have to win 1 or 2 SEC tournament games, but I think they're almost in the point where if they win out this season, it's going to be hard to leave them out. I know we'll get to that a little bit later. I don't know if you guys saw Andy Katz's power rankings. He puts out a 36. Vandy was number 24. And in the SEC power rankings, Ron Slay had Vanderbilt in his top 5. I think the other analysts did as well. So Vanderbilt is now starting to catch the attention nationally that we thought they should have after that Tennessee game or even after that Florida game. Now they're getting that. You get your 5th straight win. That's when it starts to come, guys. So not surprised by that. 5 straight wins, that'll do to you. Let's get to the atmosphere, though. And I know we hit on this at the beginning. It sounded like, and we were all in the building, and I've talked to people who watched it on TV, but it sounded like it was a 50-50 split even. Even if there were more Vandy fans in the building, there were more Vanderbilt fans in the building. That made for the best atmosphere in a long time. And it definitely had an impact on the game. And guys, there are a lot of Auburn fans that can't even get into their home games because it seats about 8,000. I mean, it is a tiny arena. That's a big reason why so many of them made the trip to Auburn. They can't even get into their own home games. And there's a lot of Auburn fans in Nashville. So obviously, you walk into that gym, it's like, wow, there's a lot of orange and blue in here. But I think towards the end, 5-6 minutes left, Vanderbilt fans got louder. A lot of people started standing up, and I think you really saw that, okay, there are more Vanderbilt fans in this gym. Auburn fans are just louder. And I think that's sort of the fact of the matter until the end. I thought down the stretch, it was pretty even in volume. And I mean, I thought the roof was about to blow off because every shot, there was a sequence where Tyron had a dunk, and then Janai Byrum went down with a dunk. And it was, guys, phenomenal basketball game before we even get into anything. I mean, What a game, what an atmosphere. I mean, I was blessed to be in there. Didn't even pay for a ticket. It was like, this is a great college basketball game. And so I want to get, Will, the split. What did you think the crowd split was? Obviously, I think you agree that Auburn fans were louder, but I think down the stretch, it was pretty even.
Yeah, I would say the crowd was probably 60% Vandy, 40% Auburn, if I had to estimate. I couldn't really see up in the 3rd tier because I was kind of way back in the 2nd and 2L. So I had kind of an interesting perspective because I could kind of see down on everything just a little bit, and I was kind of all the way back in section 2. Auburn fans were way louder, just in general. The number one thing, and kind of a funny comment I want to make, I've been into Memorial, and I've watched a ton of basketball games in a ton of gyms. I've never seen a fan base that relentlessly does the same 3-4 chants over and over and over and over and does them poorly.
Let's go
in a in a gym or a stadium they don't completely have control of. So it's not like they're dominating, like they're drowned out very quickly or they're off sync because they don't have like 80% of the stadium. They don't even have a majority of the stadium, and they just kept doing it over. It was every 5 to 10 seconds attempting to start a chant. And my take on that is it's kind of the same thing like little dick energy. So they know, Auburn undeniably knows they're the worst program in the state that they're in. Like they're worse at everything, like academics, less of it, worse at every single sport. Like it's undeniable. Like Vanderbilt can at least be like, well, you might be traditionally better, but we're better at baseball. It's a better school. It's in a better city. Like, you know, it's whatever.
Vandy
it's the
has
only
an
private
argument
university.
Auburn.
There's just arguments. Like there's just things that are better about Vanderbilt, even if Tennessee is the traditional power. Auburn has none of that. So I think they're just really self-conscious that they're not that good at anything and they're by far the worst team in their state.
Well, let me add this.
This is my.
Can I add this real quick on the
criticism to Vanderbilt fans?
Okay, go ahead. I'll get to mine in a second then.
Look, I shouldn't feel weird about standing up in a crowd that's a 50-50 split in my section, which granted was a lot of single game tickets, but I shouldn't feel weird about standing up and cheering for my team when it's a 50-50 split. And that's what was so frustrating is in football, it's one thing. I almost feel empowered whenever I'm in the minority. But in a basketball gym or in a stadium where you're not outnumbered, and in fact, you probably have a higher percentage, like I said, 60-40, 55-45, it was just weird. Vanderbilt fans yell. I know whatever, it's like this weird cultured out thing. We don't have a lot of chants, but it's okay. Get excited, yell, have fun. That's what sports are supposed to be. Is the chance to blow off steam. You don't get other chances to yell, Billy. I can hear it in your voice. You got your money's worth. I could see you the entire game. Billy, you are not part of the problem. Trevor, I know you are not part of the problem. And probably anybody listening to this is not part of the problem, but just yell, have fun. What's the worst case? Some fans look at you. You don't have to be like Trevor. You don't have to start war in your section. You don't have to.
Hey, I had some Auburn fans in a chokehold.
Exactly. You don't have to put the opposing fans in hell around you. But like, you know, and just yell. It's like fun. Like people are gonna look at you. So what? Like people dress up for those games. Like it's whatever. I don't know. It's just frustrating to see. It's not that Vanderbilt fans don't care. It's like they don't need a ton of momentum in your home gym to stand up and yell. You can just like stand up at tip and be excited and on your feet yelling. You don't have to wait for Vanderbilt to go on an 11-2 run with under 6 minutes in the game to really start standing up and yelling and screaming and clapping and showing what Memorial can be. So that was my message to Vanderbilt fans. It's good job showing up with like a higher percentage, but once you show up, why are you just sitting down on those really uncomfortable bleachers? Like my butt, dude. Oh, I don't have much meat. That was brutal. Back there, I don't have a bodacious booty like Billy, but like, dude, my butt on that back bench, like it was brutal, man. Like it was tough. So I'm not one to be like upgrade the seats, but I was standing up the entire game. That's for sure.
Trevor, tell us about your experience.
I'm right there. I'm right there with Will. I was up at the top. So I was in 3L row 4. So I was low enough that the freaking conference banners didn't for anybody who's ever sat like really up there, you have to like duck in your seat so you can see under the banners. It's crazy. Whoever thought that was a great
architecture
idea. Hey guys, I'm sorry, take the banners down. Like, and I'm not talking about like the Perry Wallace, Clyde Lee, relocate take down the conference banners. I can't see the game, but luckily I wasn't that far up, but it was probably 60-40 Vanderbilt. 3L where I was more Vanderbilt, but I'm guessing across would be 3F.
Yes.
That was like from where I was looking behind the Auburn bench. That was a lot of Auburn fans.
Yeah.
And I probably think that's where most of them were concentrated. But yeah, I would probably go 60-40 Vandy fans.
Now, this is for me at least. This is for me at least. I just want to say before we get any criticism that this is me including students. in whatever count you're doing. I'm not just
Yes.
saying broad-based crowd. Like it was probably very close to a 50-50 split of just like walk-up fans.
Yes.
But I think
the
that
students gave Vanderbilt the edge.
Yeah,
They did. Yes.
At least
The students had the
opinion
juice.
and take, so.
Yeah.
The students had the juice. But I thought, well, I totally agree. It's so frustrating that like, which I've gotten to the point, and I've been to so many like Vanderbilt games and sporting events in general, that like if I stand up and you tell me to sit down, like I'm not going to. Like it's just like, in fact, like you're gonna make me angry. And to where like I probably actually would have sat down after a while. I'm not gonna sit down. So just don't say anything to me. Like it just, if you can't see around me, I'm sorry, bro. Stand up. Like I don't know what to tell you. But hey, 3L had some goons. There were a lot of Vandy fans. They were loud. They were up in that section. It was awesome. It was
3L. That's a historic section.
The environment was crazy. And it was so funny. I was like talking to my dad, and I was talking to my roommate. Actually, my roommate Chandler is like a diehard Alabama fan from Alabama, hates Auburn. And he's like, dude, he's like, what's gonna happen? He's like, their fans are gonna show up, and like their sweater vests and like their slacks and their Chelsea boots, thinking that they're like at a country club. And bro, by God, they did. They pulled up the 3L thinking they were at a country club. And little did they know they had some degens around them. And this was not a golf course. And it was awesome. The energy.
I think
was
Auburn's
crazy.
like Kmart Ole Miss.
Auburn is the Ole Miss.
That's the way I think of Auburn is.
My brother,
it's like the discounted gear is what they show up in, but still the bow ties.
My brother and I were sitting next to a group of like 7. It looked like sophomores at Auburn. And they would all stand up at the same time after Auburn scored. Then they would sit down after every Liam Robbins free throw. They would get up and try to start chants. It's like that right there is the prototype, stereotype Auburn student and Auburn person. Like they grow up, they're the same person. They never leave that city. Like that is Auburn. And I saw a lot of those. Like, and I had, I've never been to a game in Auburn, but that was a full feel of the Auburn fans. And I'll admit it, it was
their
pretty
fans
annoying.
are very strange.
It's a weird vibe. Like
their fans gave off a
it's
real
like not
vibe,
aggressive. It's not aggressive, but it's like weird. It's like they're just chanting into nothing with aggressive energy, but not at you. But it's just like aggressive energy in the area, but not really directed towards you. Now, I can't really say that for other ones. Like South Carolina, to me, is always like the worst. And that's always one of the worst.
And let me say this about Auburn fans: they're not. You can tell they haven't been basketball fans for a while, because here's a perfect example of it. Dylan Cardwell went up for a dunk after a missed layup from KD Johnson, and he made the dunk. But Auburn fans acted like the basket counted. He ran down the floor and started, telling the Auburn fans to stand up. And I'm like, he missed the layup and KD Johnson got fouled. Like what? And Auburn fans, that's the loudest they were all night. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like that dunk didn't count. Like, what are you guys cheering about? I have a great
story about that play. Is like that play happened and they called it on the floor. And like the Auburn fans around us are like this. I kid you not. Part of me felt a little bit bad, but like I didn't like cuss the guy. Like I didn't get in his face. Like I didn't direct anything at him. But like that happened, and like he like looked at us and he was like flexing like this, and I was like, me and my dad were like, they called it on the floor. That doesn't count. And he just like looked at us, and we're like, that's not a 3-point play, my guy. And he's like walking down, like doing this. And then he proceeds to miss both free throws.
Yeah, he missed both. Yeah.
So if you pull a gun on me, you better not miss. So
I want to,
I was just like, hey buddy. And I just did the thing. And I was like, yeah, you want to bring the noise, baby. And they just didn't look at me. They didn't look at me the rest of the game. And I was like, I don't think you guys understand. I'll be here until they kick me out.
I just want everyone to have context. And this is such a good like segue into it. So I've met Trevor's dad a couple times. now. Like I don't know how many times, but I talked to him for like an extended period before this basketball game, like during the little tailgate that we had. And I just want everybody to have context of how on the other side Trevor's dad is. Like he is, to me at least, he is
very much
so
so.
calm, like doesn't like he's just this, I don't even know the right word for it, but just this calming presence, relaxed personality, very soft spoken. I can't imagine any actions that Trevor takes like his dad doing.
But you can
see as a fan.
Wild.
Like
it's
for
crazy.
me, it's for me, it's like my dad sees me at sporting events like that I'm with him at, and he's just like, God, like that is what like an extended worse version of how he is. But sometimes you'll also see my dad, and you'll be like, okay, like that's where like obviously that is like the problem here. But Trevor, it's just hilarious to me thinking about your dad watching you like celebrate and be like, I am literally,
he used to like he used to hate it. Like he used to really dislike it because like I would I would get up and like I would yell things at like the refs or like other fans. Now my dad will give it to you too. Like if my dad sees you leaving a game, my dad will be like, where are you going? But like my dad tried to teach me at a very young age to like the Commodore Creed, like I forget what it is, but it's like win with humility and lose with grace. And I love my mom and dad, and I love the Commodore Creed, but those are two tenets that I wholeheartedly reject. I will not win with humility. Like it's just, I'm sorry.
It was Auburn fans. They made it hard for Vandy fans to win without humility. I'm not even kidding. The way I don't know, they walked in and almost acted like it was their gym, and I think Vanderbilt fans, for the most part, did a good job, but I think there were still Vandy fans that didn't go. I mean, there were fans that did not buy a ticket. That's what I'll say about it. There should not have been that many Auburn fans in there. I mean, this is a game that, we had talked about. We had built up guys to being majority Vanderbilt fans, maybe 70-30. I don't think Vanderbilt's at that point yet to where they can take back their gym. I think this win helped, but I just think that's kind of a microcosm of where the program's at right now. Like I think they're getting there. They're getting to that point of their fans finally being able to take back 75-80% of their gym. But in today's day and age, with the city of Nashville and the amount of Auburn fans that live in Nashville, it's just we're not there yet. They will get there. I guys, my tone has changed a lot on Stackhouse in this program.
It's a progress,
and that's a larger discussion. But Will, I know you want to chime in. They'll get there, but they're not there yet.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say, and it was you hit on everything else. We hit on all the time the Nashville stuff, obviously having the lowest student population, not recruiting. Not recruiting, but not really accepting many applicants from in-state students. So like you don't have any connection to the community because you don't allow hardly any students in, but a kind of random cosmetic thing. We were talking about the noise, and that's one thing. Vanderbilt is in the weird spot of not having a color that pops uniquely. And so when you're looking at it from a sky view, like I was, it really hits you. Because I started actually at halftime, like counting who was in these rows, because I was like, man, these seats that are like chairbacks that should be season tickets really look like Auburn is like 50-50 legitimately down there. And I really started counting, and I was like, no, it's like 80% Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
it's just they're wearing orange and blue, and Vanderbilt's wearing like old
black
faded,
or white,
old faded gray and black and white and gold. And it's like, that's not orange. That's not burnt orange. That's not Tennessee orange, Florida green and orange, Kentucky blue. Like you don't have that distinct color. If you're wearing that bright, ugly ass orange that Tennessee has, you can see it in a section of 100 people. You can see the one in there. If you're wearing a Vanderbilt shirt, they just look like they're wearing a shirt because it's good looking gear. But that's
a black t-shirt.
It's a nice color. Like that gold is just a color that's a nice accent color. No matter what, even if it's not a team color, nobody in their right mind would put that stupid orange on their body if it wasn't to support that program. So that's how you know it's an ugly color. So anytime I have that argument, I'm like, okay, let's go to the store and let's go find the rack of clothes that includes that ugly orange. But it has a downside. Is like, as a fan base, you don't have go big blue where you stick out. If there's a white out, you see blue in the section of the whiteout. You see orange. You see LSU's purple and purple. Like, you just don't have that. So that's a struggle from just an angle and cosmetic point. That's not a noise problem, but like Vanderbilt in the lower bowl had a lot more people there than like stick out on camera, because I heard some comments from the announcers that were just inaccurate.
Yeah, I think the yellow color that Vanderbilt used to wear, sort of the yellow type of gold, stood out. And Trevor, your dad, and your dad Will would probably remember this, that color stood out when it used to be more of a yellow tint, and a lot of throwback Vandy fans miss that shade because it did stand out.
Instead of the old gold.
Yeah, if you go back and watch footage of, I don't even know if there is footage that exists, but of the Vanderbilt Tennessee football game in 1984, that's when Vanderbilt had that like bright yellow like jerseys, and it was more of a yellow than a gold, and their fans wore it too, and it was packed. It felt like that bright orange or bright blue SEC color, and they went to the more of the the gold, the gold they have now, and it just doesn't stand out. But that's it. We need to talk about the shade to vote for Vandy to switch shades.
This is the original shade. We're on like the old school. Like I like the current shade, and I think I was wearing a jacket of the old school color. But it's like
that jacket was tough too.
You can
switch. That's a tough jacket.
You can switch to that color, but man, that's going to be a cosmetic shocker when you first roll out there. If you change the uniforms and the logo, if you thought the blowback on the actual logo change, which was one thing, dude, that color is going to be like. Whew.
No, I'm not saying
you could talk me into it, dude. Like you could talk me into.
I think that's
making an argument on that side.
I think that's an episode we need to have. Should Vanderbilt switch shades of gold? But that'll be down the road, guys. We got a game to talk about. Let's get into it. I want to get into some big individual performances. Obviously, Liam Robbins, he put the team on his back. I mean, his backpack was full of the Vanderbilt, the Vanderbilt stat line with 24 points, 12 rebounds. He was only 3 of 10 from the field, but 17 of 20 from the free throw line. He also had 8 offensive rebounds, 27 minutes. Him and Janai Byrum went at it. I mean, that was a very fun matchup to watch. They were going at it all night. Byrum was cooking him early on in that first half. Liam sort of figured out that he was bigger than Byrum and taller and just longer. And,
even early into the second half.
Yeah. Byrum really.
Like those first 5 or 6 possessions, I was like, God, Liam, you need to nut up, brother, because he's beating you down low.
And he did. And Byrum is a nice player. He's a different style of player than Liam, that I think that's the matchup Liam can struggle with against a smaller 5 guy that's versatile. I mean, Broom's a really good player. And Williams is too. Whew. I mean, he made some tough little leaners in the lane over Jordan and Miles, and Vanderbilt really struggled on their 4 and 5 guys in that first half. But guys, I thought Liam even that early 3 he hit sort of set the tone, and he was just backing guys down and going to the basket and drawing fouls. And I'm hearing from a lot of Auburn fans that there were too many fouls called. I don't think there was. I thought the referees called the game very well, actually. Now, I know we're a Vanderbilt podcast, and that's natural for us to say. Maybe there was 1 or 2 that couldn't have been called, and probably you could have kept them playing. But I thought most of the foul calls on Liam were fouls on Byrum. I mean, he would hack him, I thought it was fairly obvious, a lot of those fouls on Liam.
Liam was getting the hell beat out of him down low, a lot of possessions. Like, that's one thing me and my dad there was one very, very, I forget who it was, but there was a really ticky-tacky call on, I think, Tyron Lawrence.
Yeah.
And I was
he had a couple.
And I was like, how are you going to call that when Liam down low was getting killed? Like, they were,
if it's later in the game, I think it was Manjon. If it was later in the game, there was a very specific random hand check.
Yes.
Was called
late in the
game after
with 40
the
seconds left.
I think, Billy, I think you said they called a good game. I thought so too, because they allowed a lot of contact to go. Auburn fans complaining about anything. These referees
they don't have
did a
room.
good job of not calling ticky-tack stuff, but blowing the whistle when there was a lot of contact. And this is one of the things that I actually had pulled up on my phone, one of the very few things before the podcast I knew I wanted to comment on, but I saw a variation of this comment from Auburn fans in tweets and on message boards. And there was one in specific that said, they punish us for our style of defense. That is what they said. They punish us for our style of defense. I said, look, yeah, it's called a foul. Like, this is the Auburn fans, if there are any listening, and there are not, but please spread this around. Basketball, my number one refereeing pet peeve is if a team plays aggressive man-to-man defense, puts their hands all over you from start to finish. If you're a referee, you begin calling the foul at the beginning of the game. You call it the same way on both sides, no matter what style of defense the team plays. If it's a zone or man-to-man aggressively full court, it doesn't matter. The same foul applies on either side, and this is a big issue in college basketball, and especially high school basketball, really, because those referees are absolutely awful in the state of Tennessee. But in college basketball, really, that teams that play an aggressive style of defense fouling you the whole game, the referees won't call it because they're like, we can't just blow our whistle the entire game. If I'm a referee, I'm like, no, like a foul is a foul is a foul is a foul. And I think they did a good job of balancing that. But there were a lot of complaints about the number of attempts Liam got. I'm like, you're lucky he didn't have double that. The amount of times that he was actually fouled down low. I can't imagine how sore he is after that game. But Auburn and this team, they are not going to go very far in the tournament. They're just not going to, because they are going to be 100% dependent on not getting a referee crew that's going to properly officiate them, because they foul on every single drive. Every screen there's a hold. Every time down low there was a cross screen trying to free Liam up to get position in the post. There was a hold and a foul and a grab and a bump. So the number one thing is Auburn is good defensively, not just because of this. They also have talent and a good scheme and athletic guys, quick guys, and are in the right spot. I'm not trying to diminish that side of it, but they're so good because they've conditioned whoever the referees are. This is a Bruce Pearl team. They play aggressive or man-to-man defense up in your grill, one of the best. I'm like, no, they just foul the shit out of you the entire game. The referees are afraid to call it from beginning to end. If you are putting your hands on the point guard, I'm going to call it. And if you foul out in the first 4 minutes, you foul out in the first 4 minutes. Stop fouling. And that would free up college basketball in the flow. I'm not saying take it to the extreme like the NBA. That's a whole different level of what I'm talking about, because they also allow walks and all sorts of moving screens and things like that. But if college basketball would find some consistency and not cater to the style of whatever one of the opponent's defense is, it would free up the flow, because there shouldn't be variations in college basketball where some teams consistently have games that are in the 80s, 90s, and others have them where they're consistently in the high to mid 50s. I mean, that's not just because of good defense or bad defense. Like, that's because the referees are allowing the flow of the game to be dictated by fouls. And it's as simple as that. So there's a problem in the SEC with refereeing games differently based on who's playing the games. And that doesn't mean that this referee crew specifically did a bad job in this game, just overall a criticism that had me boiling after a win, because it's hard for me not to engage with the idiots. It's hard for me not to roll around in the mud, because I think the old saying is you don't want to roll around in the mud or the briar patch because there's just pigs or whatever down there, but I love it down there. Like that, I was born down there. I was born in the darkness. Like, I love arguments and calling out stupid takes and stupidity. But Auburn had plenty of it after that game. But long story short, the Auburn defense, I was impressed with it, but I was not really impressed with their defense as much as I was like, wow, Bruce Pearl has done an amazing job of conditioning these referees to call the game differently for his team.
And I thought
that's my exact take on that. Is I totally agree. I think that referees have been, and I don't even think it's Bruce Pearl, but I think it's guys like Coach Cal, or like, I think I love watching West Virginia basketball. I think it's the same way with Bob Huggins. Like, I think that referees have certainly been conditioned to, certain coaches have this certain style of, or certain MO in which their teams have historically played by, and you just let it go. And
it's
I think
obvious
that's totally
in the technical stuff. because Bruce Pearl the entire game is like doing things and walking all to half court and stomping around.
He was acting like a maniac
onto the court.
He was
in game during
he was acting
play.
like such a clown.
But there are certain coaches, and we know this and accept it, that have longer leashes.
Jerry Stackhouse would have been ejected in the first half.
Like that's
like
the
it's
point.
just
He doesn't have it because he doesn't have the name of Bruce Pearl or John Calipari. But it's obvious that they do it there, but they also do it on the actual court, and that's where people don't connect the dots. I think.
And I think that's where Stackhouse outcoached Pearl. I thought getting the ball to Liam, just getting the ball to him and saying, "Liam, go draw a foul." And that's where he outcoached Bruce Pearl. I thought Matthew Fisher Davis, he was tweeting all night. That was one of his tweets. He said, Stack just coached circles around Pearl. Pearl's too worried. He was too busy arguing the foul calls for actually drawing up plays for his team. I mean, Pearl, I thought he hurt his team a little bit. And I think to a point, it's like, Coach, let's try to win the game. I mean, you're sitting here arguing every single foul call. It was pretty annoying to watch. But guys, I thought Liam was just phenomenal. I mean, what is this, 4 or 5 straight games over 20 points? Tyron Lawrence had 9. He struggled from the field. He was only 4 of 11, but he played most of the game, 32 minutes. He missed a lot of really close bunnies that he probably wants back. But I thought his defense made a really big difference. His breakaway dunk off of the Trey Thomas steal late in the game was huge. And the alley-oop layup feed from Manjon, what I thought were huge baskets from Tyron Lawrence late in the game. So, he only had 9, but I thought, 2 of those buckets were massive. So I thought Tyron was huge. Trey Thomas, 8 points, 2 of 7 from 3, so not great, but he had 3 big steals. He had a steal late in the game on Byrum. He ran over and stole that ball from Byrum. And then he had a really nice teardrop floater over Zep Jasper late in the game. Huge shot. I think it was under 2 minutes to play. It was late in the game, one of Vanderbilt's last few possessions. And guys, that's what I'm saying about Trey's game. He brings that little floater out twice a game, it feels like, and it comes out in big spots to where he'll curl off that screen, and depending on what the defender does, he'll either come off and keep running and catch it about 15 feet away and then hit that runner, or he'll dip back out to the 3-point line and shoot a 3. So he's better than a lot of people think at reading the defense, and I think Stack knows that, and he's got that teardrop down. Ezra Manjon, guys, I mean, you can't say enough. I know he didn't dominate the stat sheet offensively, but 7 points, 5 assists. I thought every assist was huge. He distributed the ball very well. He hit just his second 3 of the season. That was massive. I mean, that was
he didn't want to shoot that either.
No, he hesitated a few times.
He did not. I was like, he did not want to shoot that.
And Stack after the game was like, "You got it to go, man." And they've been working on it. And guys, if Manjon can hit it, if he can hit 1 3 a game, that's when Vandy really starts getting scary. I mean, if
Ezra Manjon can start knocking down threes,
it's ball game,
because
unbeatable.
He's going to become unguardable, unmanageable if he can start shooting 30% on wide open set threes. My God, because he's already the fastest and quickest player on the court. No matter what. And
he never gets tired, guys. It's like his stamina. It's like he's not human. Like he's got stamina like nobody I've ever seen, and he controls the pace of the game so well, and he plays with a nice rhythm. He's different than Scotty. I mean, obviously Ezra is more of an attacker, but I think Ezra is just as good at Scotty about change of pace. And if when he knows he's going to attack, he's going to spot you up. He's going to analyze you defensively and then just blitz by you. I mean, his quickness is, I don't think we've seen a Vanderbilt point guard like him, guys. I mean, we've seen Scotty. Jermaine Beal was obviously a really good shooter, not as explosive as Ezra. But I mean, Kyle Fuller, maybe, but even Kyle wasn't as locked down of a defender. So Ezra is the point guard Stack wants within this offense, at least this season. And I'm not saying Vanderbilt's better without Scotty, but in a weird way, I feel like it suits the team a little bit better as a whole. And all these guys are older, but Ezra, I mean, he has really come on. He's gotten a lot better. He knows that he's a coach out there. He leads these guys, and he's a player coach. Jordan Wright also, I thought he only played 21 minutes, but 7 points, 7 rebounds. He was great defensively. He's become the 6th man, guys. And I don't mind it, to be honest. Like I don't mind it at all. I mean, he sort of plays in spurts, and he's ready to go. He's never really tired. It doesn't look like anymore. I mean, he hit a huge 3 from the right wing down the stretch. And then he locked up KD Johnson on that possession and went over to the student section, started hyping them up. I just think he plays really well within the game emotionally and never gets too high. So, I mean, guys, there's coaches on the floor now. Like Jordan is almost feels like an assistant coach on the floor. Ezra, Tyron, they've been with Stack for a while. Quentin Malort-Brown, I mean, he's always motioning and pointing and coaching the defense. I mean, I like watching.
I love that guy, man. He might be my favorite player on the team. Like, I really, really like him.
He hit a couple of huge buckets too late in the game.
He did. He had that big assist to Jordan too.
Yes. Yeah. Q is a very skilled passer. You could say he's the smartest player on the floor. I mean, he doesn't miss a beat defensively, and he's smart offensively. Guys, Studi, I thought early on.
While we're on QMB, sorry, I didn't know if you're going to continue on that. I just want to say we always like make a big deal about guys going from being like role players or being bench guys to low rotation guys to becoming the studs or becoming the second or third leading scorer, even becoming, a scorer off the bench. The improvement in QMB's game is clear. He went from being a guy that was an absolute liability on pretty much everywhere outside of maybe boxing out to like he actually isn't a complete and utter liability. If he gets the ball down low, he can finish. He's not awful from the free throw line. He seems to be getting in better position. His pick and roll action is better. Like, I just don't think the improvement he has made has gotten enough attention.
Yeah.
Like, it's not why they're on a 5-game winning streak, but it's definitely a little piece to the puzzle is the improvement in his game overall. And he's playing really well in that backup role to Liam that is going to be much needed, because at some point Liam's going to get in really early foul trouble. And he is going to have multiple games, I'm sure, late in season that are going to be closed out without him on the court due to foul trouble and being fouled out of the game. So QMB, as long as Dort as well is out with that injury, don't know how long, I guess that fracture or whatever it is going to hold him out, but QMB's the guy. And so he's going to have a lot of big moments and a lot of big opportunities to just, I don't know the right word, not mess up is not the right word, but to be on the court in big moments and be a key factor in whether this team wins or loses. So just keep an eye on
smart basketball.
Yep.
That's what he does. And that's all Stack is asking from him. He's not playing in big minutes, but I think another thing, Will, with QMB being healthy and able to play pretty well, it's allowed Lee Dort to get fully healthy. Say QMB's hurt, they might have tried to rush Lee back, and then maybe he gets hurt again, and then you don't really have a backup for Liam. So I think Q has sort of bought some time for Lee Dort to sort of get back and 100% healthy. Let's get to Studi. Guys, I know I wanted to call this. I thought I did early on, the kind of the big dream game from Studi. He hit a couple back-to-back threes from the same exact spot on the floor, which I thought sort of set the tone for the first half. I mean, that's after those shots, Auburn probably said, shit, Vandy's hitting their shots. I mean, this is going to be a dogfight. Vanderbilt, they already start hot. Studi, I mean, how Auburn lets him open back-to-back possessions in the same exact spot, I don't know. But that's a guy, he didn't do anything in the second half really, but I thought he played pretty well defensively, rebounded decent. And, that's the thing, guys, they're not making mistakes. I mean, they're playing their role. They know their role, and they know how their role helps the team, and they're playing to that role. And so I think that's the biggest thing with this team right now. It's like everybody knows their role, and it just took time to figure it out. Hopefully it didn't take too long. That's the thing right now. Hopefully, it didn't take too long for this team, but the way they're playing right now, I already said it, they're playing like a tournament team. So Vanderbilt, again, guys, I thought Auburn shot the ball better statistically, at least from the field, 44%. Vanderbilt was 36%. Vanderbilt shot better from three, though, 39%. I thought that was a little bit of the difference in the game. Some of those threes Vanderbilt was able to hit with Trey, and even going back to Liam's three, just Jordan's three late, I thought were just huge shots. When Vanderbilt was down 6, I think it was 55-49, I think. And then Tyron got a quick basket to answer from that Lior Berman three, the Auburn's white shooter who hit some daggers. Trey hit a quick he had a quick bucket, and then Vanderbilt got right back into it. I thought that was a big turning point in the game. That was danger zone. I told my brother, I said, I don't have a good feeling about this. Auburn's up 6. They've got the momentum of the crowd, but for Vanderbilt to just quickly just let that roll off their back, Tyron hit a quick big shot. and they got right back in the game. So I thought that was a huge moment. Auburn only had 10 free throw attempts. As you mentioned, Will, Vandy had 27. That you look back at that and you start to sort of realize, okay, maybe Auburn fans might have a say, but I thought the refs called it well. I mean, Auburn didn't get to the free throw line enough, and they only hit 50% of they were 5 for 10. Like that's, if you're Auburn and Bruce Pearl, you should be disappointed in your team not getting to the free throw line enough in that game. I think that's what I would say to that. Vandy, guys, and I keep saying this, they only had 10 turnovers and shot 74% from the free throw line. That's what I'll keep saying it. Take care of the ball, get to the line, and make your free throws. You're going to win the game. I mean, they've done that in this winning streak, and they've won.
And there was a point in the game too to where it was never a blowout, but there was a point in the game to where it was still close, and Vanderbilt might have even had the lead, and they were shooting like 27% from the field, and had the lead because they were making their free throws, and also to maybe a little bit of luck, but they're not that great of a shooting team. Auburn wasn't hitting threes either, but there was a point to where like Auburn was shooting like 40% or like 39%. Vanderbilt was shooting like 27
points in the paint.
Vanderbilt
Auburn
like
dominated,
was close or even like had the lead.
It was a weird game.
The other part of the free throw thing that I don't think is getting enough attention is sometimes I will also look at that and be like, ugh, maybe I am seeing it through a slant. However, I don't get that as much when you look at the attempts, and 20 of Vanderbilt's 27 attempts were from Liam. I mean, their recipe going in was, we are not going to let him just make a move, towards the basket and just score on us. We're not just going to let that happen. We're going to be physical, and we're going to help over, and we're not going to let him, roll off those screens cleanly or come off screens cleanly ever. Or when he catches the ball, we're going to be digging every single time that he dribbles. So
they didn't make an adjustment.
Shots, he was getting fouled. I mean, it was one guy that they had a plan to be very physical, and he could have shot 35 free throws or 36 free throws. I mean, he was getting fouled pretty much by the rule book every single possession down the court. At some point, the referees have to call something. They can't just allow you in the paint to just foul one particular guy over and over and over and then say, why are they shooting so many free throws? Because you fouled him that many times. I mean, there were maybe 2 of the fouls, of the times he went to the free throw line that were questionable. Other than that, they were like full arm hacks or having their full body shift over late and fully contact Liam as he was already up in the air trying to shoot or do something or dribble the ball. Yes, there was a free throw differential, but it's not the type of free throw differential that was just like, well, Vanderbilt was driving it into the paint, and every time they drove it in, it was a foul. It was like, no, we were throwing it into the post, and the post was making a post move, and the double team was fouling him from the other side. That's a very different scenario. So that's just, a dumb take from dumb fans.
It's just kind of it's a short-sighted take. It's an easy excuse for an Auburn fan. I mean, if I'm not saying we would be in the same spot, but I think if we let a team shoot 27, we only get to line 10, we might be saying the same thing. But I thought it was a well-called game. I really did. Like you said, other than 1 or 2 maybe cheap foul calls on Byrum, I thought they called it well.
Also, the combined factor of clearly like our best player is Liam Robbins, who's in the paint the entire game, and he tries actively to avoid fouls and is one of the nation's, leading shot blockers and one of the all-time leaders in that. So like, yes, if you have a referee crew that is calling fouls on post players for incorrectly playing defense and poorly trying to block shots, then that's advantage Vanderbilt. Because you have an elite shot blocker, not just a good shot, an elite level shot blocker in Liam Robbins, and then another 6'11" guy that is very disciplined and doesn't really jump ever in QMB. So Vanderbilt is probably going to win those foul differentials just because of how they play, because of their posts and because of Liam and because of QMB. So this is an argument that I'm sure Vanderbilt is going to face a couple more times this year, but as long as they keep winning, I'm happy to hold the sword up and continue to fight and make this argument from the correct side.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting in Rupp how if our tune has changed a little bit. Yeah, the referees will be interesting. But
For
guys, go ahead, Trev.
for the just real quick for this Auburn game too, I know a lot of fans have. I've been hypercritical of Trey Thomas on defense. I think his defense has really, really improved. Like I think this past game, and I think the past like 3 or 4 games, he has like not only shown that he's no longer a liability on defense, but that like he can make plays on the defensive side. Like
Yeah, he's made
against
up for it. Yeah,
Against Auburn, he led the team in steals.
yeah,
And
yeah. I
so I
mentioned that. Yeah,
think like whenever you have someone like Trey who can step up and you have him playing at like a really, really good level, I think too, and me and uh Jay Healy or Healy J on Twitter were like talking about how Jordan Wright, um, he's just not that guy this year. Like we've talked about with injuries. I want to get your guys' opinion on this. I don't think, and I think Vanderbilt fans would love for him to be the guy. I think like if you had to pick a fan favorite on this team, most people will probably pick Jordan just because he's been with the team the longest. But Jordan doesn't have to be that guy
no,
because
no.
Liam Robbins is, and probably a little bit more.
Yeah,
Um,
Jordan has found a role, and his
yeah,
role
and I think
is
it works.
yeah, he's doing whatever it takes to help the team. I mean, if you think about it, like that little tap out of bounds, you don't think much of it on KD Johnson, but then he walks over to the student section. It's like little momentum plays from Jordan where he knows how to get the crowd into it. He knows when to make a stop. He knows he'll hit that three on the right wing. That's huge. Like he's found a role. And last year, I think he sort of had to be a guy next to Pippen. But now that Robbins, a post player, is that guy, Jordan, and you have an Ezra, Jordan doesn't have to be what a lot of people thought he had to be this year. Like before the season,
I totally agree. Yeah.
before the season, I remember us saying Jordan Wright has to be the best. I don't know about the best player, but he has to be that explosive
He had to be the
guard.
guy.
Yeah, he had to be sort of the go get it guy. And
Yeah.
I think we're finding out Liam can be that guy. Ezra can get it to Jordan. He can get it to Miles. He can get it to Trey, and they'll be fine. So Jordan, there's not pressure on him. I think his role is perfect coming off the bench as a 6-man. Stack said tonight in the radio show that he can sub him out for anybody. He can put him in the game for anybody. He can put him in for Trey. He can put him in for Miles. He can put him in for anybody. And so it put Stack in a really good spot with Jordan. So I think his role is fine.
Yeah, I think that's the sixth man and the role that fits. And we talked about it last podcast, but the flexibility that he provides. And you look at the starting lineup, he can come in for anybody but Liam Robbins in that starting lineup. If you just want to make one sub early in the game, somebody gets in foul trouble that's not Liam Robbins, who clearly is going to be subbed in for by Quentin Moore-Brown.
Yeah.
But that's what he brings. And I don't want to say this, and I want to say this in like the least disrespectful way possible. But I think Tyron Lawrence is really kind of had the role that we expected Jordan Wright to take on this team as the secondary scorer to Liam Robbins, to kind of play the Robin to whoever emerged as the Batman, which we all hoped would be Liam Robbins. And it seems that he clearly is emerging as he's been really dominant in the last 5 games. But Jordan Wright has fit into a role, but it's a disappointing role. I don't want to like mince words and pretend that, you know, the overall fan base is like looking at how he's performed this season and been like, it's been fantastic. It hasn't been horrible. I think that's another side, is anybody that's like, he's been awful. I'm like, no, he's provided a lot of, you know, added value. He's a great rebounder, great defender. Anytime there's anyone in foul trouble and you need a steadying hand, he's right there to play literally the 2 through 4 and match up with anybody on the 1 through 5 on the opponent's roster. So I'm not trying to diminish that, but it's like not shifting expectations. It's like if you compare what I thought he would be doing and what his stat line would look like and his per game averages, it's better than where he's sitting right now. And so I'm not trying to shift in like, you know, the subtle disrespect of low expectations. It's like I didn't have low expectations for him because I thought he was the second best player on the team. And he's probably played like the 4th or 5th best player on the team, or 5th best probably. So that's a little bit disappointing, but it's every disappointment is not 100% disappointing. It's like he's been maybe, 20% disappointing, but other guys have stepped up. Manjon has been 10 times more, in all honesty, than I expected even early in the season, with his capability scoring and really kickstarting the offense. So there's other guys that have made up for it, but if Jordan can kick it into gear anywhere kind of close to where we fully expected him to be, man, that's just another piece to this offense that you won't have these stretches where you go without a field goal for 3, 4, 5 minutes late in the game, or you shoot 27% because in the first half, or a long stretch of the first half. It's just another guy that can get going. And if everyone else is cold, the odds of everyone being cold, if you have 6 guys that can put up 20 points every night, is way lower than when you have 2 guys. And in college basketball, in tournament settings, I think having a lot of guys that can put up points is definitely a benefit, more than any other sport, or in the regular season. I think once they get into those tournaments, that can be a big benefit.
I agree. And I think, guys, Jordan's role can be defined by that second half, what Stackhouse told him to do on Williams. I mean, I thought Wright did a really good job on Jalen Williams, especially late at that second part of that second half, where Williams would try to post up. Wright would force him to kick it out, and he wouldn't be able to get the shot he wanted. So I think Wright's role has sort of turned into a defensive stopper a little bit, to where Stack can say, 1 through 4, you've got a guy on the other team that's just going off. Maybe not 1, because Ezra can stick on that guy, but 2 through 4, like you said, Will, anybody that's just going off. Okay, Jordan, we're going to throw you on that guy. Don't let him score. It's sort of that defensive stopper in a late game scenario, and I think that's very valuable. And I think Jordan understands that. I mean, I don't think Jordan's the guy that's pouting while he's on the bench. I mean, I think he sort of understands where his role is, and I think that's helped the team. And I think, guys, it's like at the beginning of the season when this team was playing poorly, I think a lot of it was because the other guys outside of Jordan, like Jordan was, he was trying to do his thing. I think he was trying to lead the team, but his role has shifted and it's helped the team weirdly. Like I don't know, the pieces have just come together finally. And that's what we said. We said the puzzle pieces haven't come together, after the loss to Bama, and even before that when they were losing games. Now it's almost like it's together, and they got to keep winning, keep sort of, you can sort of enjoy the puzzle that you've put together. I don't know that there's a piece that's missing anymore. Now Jordan, maybe offensive production. I think that, maybe just a little bit more offensively would be sort of a cherry on top. But right now, guys, they're winning with Jordan not really producing offensively to a great degree. So, guys, we got some questions to get to, though, from fans and comments and things like that, talking about Vanderbilt's NCAA tournament chances. But we've got a sponsor for it. Primus Bank, Kennedy Mathis, loan officer, NMLS number 2179364. Kennedy has a passion for assisting families in realizing their dreams of home ownership. Also has a passion for writing on thedoovreport.com, previews and recaps. He's done a great job there. You can call him at 931-224-7684 or email him at kennedy.mathis@primusbank.com. You can also apply online today at primusbank.com. Okay, let's get to some of these questions, and they're all pretty similar about Vanderbilt's tournament chances. And we did have one I want to sort of circle back to, and it was the crowd question. I thought it was a really good comment from Luke on Twitter. He said, "Love the attendance from the fans, but would it kill us to be a little bit louder?" And I think he's spot on. I really do. I think we've already talked about it a little bit, but I think sort of for Vandy fans, number one, show up, because I think there were still Vandy fans. If you're listening to this podcast and didn't show up, I don't know what to say. Now, I think there are fans that don't listen, maybe they're on the older side that said, I'm not going for whatever reason. I don't know. But I think number one, show up, because I think that was a little bit of it. I think number two, stand up and be loud. I mean, I think it really is that simple. I mean, Will, you said it. Like, don't be afraid to stand up and help. I mean, I think that's really what it comes down to. Auburn, as a fan base, was louder for most of the game. I mean, you saw that moment that I talked about with Cardwell. He was just hyping up the crowd, and the place lit up. I mean, that was the loudest moment of the game. And so, I do think Vandy fans did a good job. That's traditional for Vandy fans down the stretch of a game to get louder, stand up. And when Ezra hit that shot, I mean, my goodness. I mean,
those Twitter videos, like,
that was great.
You didn't feel like you felt it in the crowd, but like you were so like your
Wrapped up in it.
mind was all over the place that you couldn't realize how loud it got. But then like I went back and I watched like
Joey
shout out to
Dwyer,
Joey Dwyer.
his
That
video was unreal.
oh my God. Like them getting excited as Ezra went up, and then it just being quiet as it like
Mhm.
rattles in the rim, and then
Oh, man.
Memorial just exploded. Like it
Yeah.
was, I mean, it was erotic to be quite frank. It was it was sensual.
I do think Luke, though, to sort of, answer that, I guess, I think just stand up and be louder. I mean, I think, Luke, that's a great comment. So,
You
Vandy
gotta
fans,
embrace the crazy.
you do.
Like Will said, like who freaking cares if like somebody's like watching you? You're at a sporting event. You paid your hard-earned money to like honestly, if you wanted a better viewing experience, just stay home. Like sit on your couch and like eat your food. Like that's totally okay. But like if you're gonna spend your money to come to the game, like get freaking buck wild. Like it's I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like you
It's
paid your
that
money,
simple.
like get your money's worth. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Auburn fans were starting cheers like out in the concourse. Like I was getting a water, and I heard like their War Eagle chant. I'm like, okay, this is
Yes.
getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I think Vandy fans should have taken that sort of as, okay, Auburn fans, they're walking in here acting like they can just take over the arena. You need to take some pride in that and get louder. I thought for the most part Vandy fans did. I'm not ripping the fans, and I'm not going to come out here and say that, but I do think it could have been better, and there also shouldn't have been that many Auburn fans. I don't know what to say to that, but
Well, and
guys,
two,
yeah,
like for this Saturday, like guys, for 48 hours, you could get tickets to an SEC basketball game for $12. Like, I mean, if you didn't jump at that, then I mean, my God, I don't know. Like, there's nothing I can do to convince you.
that
If
was a
like
great.
that deal alone didn't get you in, then like I don't like. There's nothing I can say. Like, there's nothing any of us can say to like get you to come to Memorial. You know
I'm
what I mean?
hoping, yeah, I'm hoping the Auburn game did a lot in terms of people seeing the atmosphere that maybe decided not to go, and they said, okay, there's another Saturday night game against Florida. I'm going.
It
That's what I'm
was
hoping.
it was electric, and there's no other way to say it. Like the crowd was, I mean, the crowd was alive. Like it
And
was a phenomenal atmosphere.
I think Vandy players realize the amount of Auburn fans that were in there. It's almost like any time Auburn got up, they had some momentum. Vandy would they would get a bucket. They would hit a
Yeah,
three, and they felt it almost like they felt it out, and they said, we're going to shut them up as quick as we can. And I
yeah,
could be an idiot in thinking that, but I think, I think there's a little truth to that, where Vandy's almost motivated by the road crowd in their own gym. It's weird to
yeah.
say, but sometimes it doesn't hurt Vanderbilt. I got another question from Vernal Soul. His profile picture is AJ Swan, so it's going to be a good one. Do you think Vandy has any realistic shot of getting into the dance as an at-large, or is our only shot to win the SEC tournament?
That I guess is a good one for me. But yes, I mean, if they continue to win, if they win out in the regular season, they'll be in.
No
If
matter
they
what
win these
happens
last four
in
games,
Nashville?
I think so, because they'll have
I'm
13
almost to that
losses.
point. Yeah.
I mean, they'll finish. They'll have a double bye in the SEC tournament. There's absolutely no way that
Does
a
the
loss.
double bye hurt though? I've had
Because
some
at
questions.
that point, based on this and based on what I've seen how it works, so they moved up 2 spots with a win versus Auburn, who was 18th in KenPom before that, I believe, and an NCAA tournament team. So that's the level of team that they would be playing in that first game, and it has a negligible impact. Now, a loss in the opening round, or a loss to a team
Brutal.
like a Georgia ranked at 120, 124, 125
That's
in
nail in
KenPom,
the coffin.
that's the nail in the coffin. So I think it's these last 4 games in the SEC tournament, especially, of course, if go 4-0, but 3-1, that will set you up in a good position. 3-1, I think there's a lot of other factors based on who you lose to in that 3-1 scenario, and who you beat, and then how the other chips fall. 4 games isn't a lot, but it's also a ton in this last stretch.
Yeah.
But yes, long story short, I mean, they hold the keys. It's shockingly, after how the season started, they have teams remaining on the schedule that are not top of the conference. I mean, it is Kentucky and Rupp, but they haven't exactly been a dominant force. I think they're actually in a lot of projections like the top team in that last four in.
Their
right
first four in,
edge.
Yeah.
And that's the best team remaining on your schedule. You have Florida, you've already beaten them. You have LSU, probably the worst team in the conference. And you have Mississippi State, who's another
feel
team
like
on the
that-
bubble. So
that's the
those
game
are
for me.
huge spots. You could be stealing away their spots, is what I was trying to get to there. Is you're going to have matchups almost perfectly set up for like battles for SEC tournament, or not SEC, but NCAA tournament spots. But these rankings, I have to like transition this. I have a question for you guys. Explain how in these net rankings. So where is Vanderbilt currently?
89.
In the 89. So they're 87th in the Ken Palm. They're always very closely tied. And all the explanations I get are related to, having one bad loss, which, yes, they had one bad loss in the out of conference play. They lost to the number 203 team in the Ken Palm rankings by 2 points. Okay. And that has detrimentally set them back when none of their other losses have been to a team below, they had Southern Miss, who was 93rd, but still a top 100 team in all of Ken Palm. And their next lowest loss is 62nd in conference to Missouri by 3 points. I don't understand where this narrative of bad losses has come from. Every other loss outside, unless, and this is where I have my opinion. So this is my big hot take of the episode, I guess. The explanation of valuing margin of victory is going to be my soapbox and hill that I die on. That is the stupidest thing.
I heard a lot of margin for victory.
There is a margin for victory. So my prediction is there's some issue within this net ranking thing that is overvaluing a 57-point loss to Alabama without a majority of your best players, and that large of a margin.
At Alabama, too.
But regardless, that large of a margin in whatever analytical ranking, formula, which they're supposed to be using some type of analytical-based formula now, based on what we're talking about, has some parameter problem that is over-calculating and over-putting in that 57-point loss, okay? And I could be very, very wrong. But I think that there's an issue within that you can say that a loss to a lower-tier team, number 203 in Grambling State by 2 points is super detrimental. But, winning against Auburn by 2 points or beating Tennessee, the number 6 team in Ken Palm, by 1 point, that doesn't have much value. You got to beat them by more, by 6. I'm like, so what difference does it make if you hit a last-second shot with 30 seconds left, Tennessee goes down and misses, then Vanderbilt shoots, oh, Alexa.
Alexa's excited.
Okay,
I
was about to be done, but what is the difference? So this is my big issue, and the more I've looked into it, because of the lack of movement in Vanderbilt in these net rankings, it's really frustrated me. And just not getting buzz because of that, and just the canned answer of everybody trying to act like they fully understand and can explain how it works, like the deep analytics. I always just want to comment back let's go into the analytics because I understand them. I don't think you do. I don't think you've taken the time to understand these formulas in the background. So what I think is happening.
Joke's on you guys. Will runs the net.
Last second shots have almost no impact. Do what?
Jokes on you guys. Will runs the net ranking online.
Dude, that would be the all-time troll. No.
Will is Ken Palm.
I am Ken Palm. No.
Ken Pomeroy is Will Byrum.
There's some good jokes that I won't tell in this podcast about my state into numbers. But yeah, I'm a data nerd. So in my spare time, I've got Excel spreadsheets with stuff pulled out because they don't release exactly how it's
with
calculated.
The net rankings.
Because of course they don't. Why would you release the formula that's clearly biased towards nonsense things like margin of victory and over sensationalizing the difference?
The net is such a ridiculous. It's such a joke of a stat.
It clearly what we are seeing, whatever weight is given, is a 1 or 2 point victory is not very much. But then, if we would have missed, Vanderbilt hits that last 3 with 20 seconds. Tennessee misses, has to foul Vanderbilt, hits both free throws. Now Vanderbilt's up 3 points. Tennessee goes down, misses again, fouls Vanderbilt. Now Vanderbilt wins by 5. Does all of a sudden Vanderbilt skyrocket up the rankings
Probably
because they won by 5 versus 1? Yes. Yes. The answer to that question is yes. As ridiculous as that scenario that I just laid out sounds, that's the argument and explanation people are giving Vanderbilt fans, is that we know you won, but you got to win better than that. Last time I checked, you didn't play based on what the Vegas spread was in the NCAA fucking tournament. Like, it doesn't matter how many you win by. That's the whole point, is winning and losing should be like 95% of whatever the calculation is, and related matchups, strength of schedule based on those related matchups and winning and losing. But this margin of victory and efficiency rankings being so heavily put into this, when you look at the teams Vanderbilt has beaten and the teams Vanderbilt has lost to, compared to like Mississippi State, dude, it's a joke. And I know based on the nods here that Trevor has probably some type of similar opinion.
This is Will. I'm right there with you. Okay, now your Alexa is freaking out. Now my Siri is freaking out. But I know
we're in. They're
the feds
listening.
are on
like
me.
we're
What
hitting on something here. Like
one of the
NCAA
Auburn
is
fans
shaking in their boots.
whose face I got into actually works for the FBI, and they're hacking the Door Report's mainframe right now. So
no doubt.
sayonara, boys.
Ken Palm has entered the chat.
Ken Palm has entered the chat, boys. But I'm right there with you, Will. Particularly when it comes to baseball and Major League Baseball, I love sabermetrics. I love analytics. I'm all about OPS plus, F4, ROR, whichever your choice is. I love all this stuff. But my God, guys, whenever it comes to something like the NCAA tournament, and shout out to Bryce Smith, Vandy Hustler, we just need to go back to the RPI. Listen to how simple this is. No, don't get. Listen to how simple this is. And doesn't this make so much sense? It's your winning percentage, your opponent's winning percentage, and your opponent's winning percentage. Let's just go to that.
We solved it.
RPI is awful because the RPI does
RPI,
not. So
it's
Trevor,
not even used.
This
it's
is
not
why,
even used
because
anymore.
okay,
They've adopted the net,
conferences.
but the net has bastardized the RPI.
60% of your season is within your conference. So like the teams that you play are still the teams. So if you're conference, it just creates like Alabama incest inside.
But
so you're
is
just
it not
playing. No, it's awful.
Is it
RPI
not
the
better
worst
than
one.
having to deal with
the NCAA
the metric of losing by 57
the
points?
NCAA net is more frustrating because it takes into account like more complex analytics, right? So the RPI is just
the nerds
dumb.
have
Everybody knew
sports,
the
guys.
RPI was bad. Like everybody was like, just stop looking at it.
No,
it doesn't do right.
This is too much hate for the RPI.
The net ranking is dumb because it didn't go like, okay, now we have these detailed analytics. Here is the formula that gives your team a score. And then we rank based on that score. What they've done is created this mysterious formula. You know, literally you go to the site of the NCAA net rankings and it gives you some explanation that sounds like a professor that's never actually worked in the field. So he's just using like as many complicated words as possible to just make you give up. Like that's what it reads like. And so the most dangerous thing in the world is having these analytics people can't understand, but they think they understand. Like
this is all
at face value, I can make any argument with analytical data, but you have to like, there's a middle ground that the NCAA purposefully has made it hazy. And like, that's so obvious at this point, they intentionally made the new ranking system hazy when there was an option to finally make it transparent. Because if they make it transparent with what I'm talking about, Joe Lunardi suddenly becomes useless. Thank God.
Yes. Selection Sunday is no longer. We can't bicker about it.
It's such a dumb, like the whole system is dumb and there's a way to fix it now, but they won't do it because there's an entire industry and people have built careers off a stupid, idiotic system that shouldn't be in place anymore with modern ability to track stats and analytics. So that's my take, is like, why are we doing this and pretending that this isn't a choice? Like people are acting like we don't have the ability to make this a transparent ranking system. We do. The NCAA just won't because Joe Lenardi and all these bracketologists and Selection Sunday won't have jobs anymore. And instead we'll have a fairly selected tournament with the best 68 teams in the country. Nah.
Here's the thing.
Keep Joe all fat and happy.
The system is RPI, Will. The system you're looking for is the RPI.
Here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing as we get off that tangent. All Vanderbilt has to do, if they beat LSU by 40 or 50, they're going to skyrocket. Yeah. I mean, they're going to skyrocket in the net. You beat LSU by 40, you're probably in the 70 range in the net. I mean, the way that works, I wouldn't be surprised. So I think that's how, that's why I said earlier, I think a few episodes ago, that Vanderbilt will need some style points because of how stupid the net ranking is. Because now it's going to be hard to get style points at Rupp. Obviously, it's going to be hard enough just to win. But I think Florida, these next two games, these are your chances to go out and dominate an inferior opponent. A Florida without Castleton, an LSU team that has lost 14 in a row. So go out and you beat these next two opponents by a average margin of 25 or 30. You should be in good shape, at least better shape in the net. And I mean, they're at 81 right now. Lenardi has them at 81. And technically, that's their number ranking. 68 get in. They're at 81. They're not as far behind as a lot of people, I think, outside of Nashville think they are, because there's some hope, and it doesn't feel real still. It's weird talking about it. But guys,
it feels like a fever dream.
If they go 3-1 down the stretch and win at least 2 tournament games, I think that's an outside chance at making the tournament. But if you win out, you get a double bye in the SEC tournament. I think you're almost guaranteed. I mean, I think that's almost a guarantee. So
you said you have a chance, Billy. You said 3-1. Is that what you said? 3-1, and
I just think I think
is that
it's
one
going to be
loss to
hard.
Kentucky?
Well,
I think
so
think 3-1. If you win it, if you win 2 after 3-1 in the tournament, you're
3-1 in the regular season.
Yeah, 3-1, and then win 1 game in the tournament, right? Because if they win 2 in the tournament after 3-1, they're in for sure.
Yeah. It's just, who knows? There's still 4 games left, guys, but these next 2, they have to win. That's
if Vanderbilt goes 3-1, I hate to throw a monkey wrench. If they go 3-1 in the regular season, but that one loss is to Mississippi State, but you somehow beat Kentucky at Rupp.
See,
because I agree with you, Billy. I said this on Twitter. That Mississippi State game has been circled for a very, very long time.
That's the game, because Mississippi State right now, they're first 4 out. If you beat Mississippi State, you kick them out. I mean,
exactly.
You kick them out, then you get who beat Mississippi State? Who kicked them out? Vandy?
Yeah.
That's the game right there. Now you got to go and compete at Rupp. Say they win these next 2 games, lose a tough one on the road against Rupp. You beat Mississippi State. That's gonna be hard to leave a hot Vandy team out that's won 7 of their last 8, or 8 of their last 9, or whatever it would be. I mean, that's where we're at, guys. I mean,
and outside, this is what I'm saying. Like, the bad loss narrative is like,
it doesn't matter anymore.
But they haven't lost to any team. They have lost 0 games to teams outside of the top 100, outside of 1 loss early and out of conference play by 2 points to the number 203 team in the country.
That's the dark cloud.
1 game by a 2-point margin. And that's where I'm getting at, is like, that's the explanations I'm getting that are frustrating to me, is that, okay, so this is a Q4 loss. Like, that's a super broad bracket thing that they've started using, is Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Like, that's a big difference in those, how you define, putting 25 or attempting to put 25% of teams into one bracket of teams, or one glob of teams. Like, all of those are not created equal in the NCAA. And that's what it's like. Yeah, they also have a loss to Southern Miss, but that Southern Miss team is really good. And they're ranked number 93 in KenPom. Yes. And it's like, that's the other one people like to say. They like to say Grambling State and Southern Miss. I'm like, just because Southern Miss is a mid-major doesn't mean that's a horrendous loss. It wasn't a good loss, but it's not like a backbreaker. I get Grambling State is bad, but like 1-2 point loss should not even like, they're not even a bottom 100 team. Like, that's what I'm getting at, is they're like close to being a middle of the pack mid-major. You lost by 2 points. Like, to me, that's so frustrating. And I know it is to you and everyone else out there.
And I think what Vanderbilt needs, guys, on that committee, somebody or a few people to look at this team down the stretch, say they finish 3-1, they've won 8 of their last 9, and they win a game or 2 in the SEC tournament. Vanderbilt needs somebody or a group of people on that committee to say, look at this Vandy team. I mean, are we really going to leave them out, of Dayton in that first 4 in or what? I mean, nobody wants to play this team right now. I think that's what I hope the country is understanding. So what I wonder, though, is that 13th loss, how damaging is that? If you get to 14 losses, that you're making it tough. You're making it really hard. I think if you finish this season with 13 losses, even after the SEC tournament, it's going to be really damn hard to keep this team out. So obviously huge games left, guys. Kentucky and Mississippi State. These next 2 games, knock on wood, if they go well, Vanderbilt's in a hell of a spot. They're going to be higher up in the net here a week from now. And I can't believe I'm saying this right now. But, guys, if the SEC tournament started today, before we get to Byrum's betting corner, as the current number 5 seed, Vandy would play the winner of South Carolina and Ole Miss, 2 teams they've already beaten. If they win that, they would play the 4 seed, Tennessee, currently, in Nashville. So that would be one hell of a, I guess, second round or quarterfinal round matchup, Vandy and Tennessee in Nashville. And if they beat Tennessee a second time, I mean, they're a lock. I mean, you can't leave them out. So
yeah,
that leads us to the last segment here. LSU Tuesday night in Baton Rouge on Mardi Gras. That's a fun time to be down in New Orleans for Vandy on Mardi Gras. Hopefully they stay away from a lot of that partying. I'm sure Stack will keep them in the hotel. But Will, what do you think about this game?
No hibachi and no Mardi Gras.
No king cake down there for Vandy. But Will, what are you thinking here? You think it's going to be at least 10? I mean, LSU's awful. I mean, I would think double digits here, Vandy. Certainly not a home court advantage.
This one will not be a fun one to bet on for Vanderbilt fans. I haven't seen the line yet. It might be close to being released now. I'm not really sure. I'm trying to find
probably
it
early.
I would guess Vanderbilt 10.5 or 9.5 would be my guess. I wish I could find if anywhere had actually released that, but this is more to do with LSU than anything. They're 1-13, I think, in the conference, and they're bad. They're really actually that bad. There's a clear line. Like, I don't mean that as anything like to upset LSU fans specifically. Vanderbilt was there not too long ago. That you were like watching this team play on SEC Network, and you say to yourself, this is not an SEC basketball team. Like, there's a clear line in talent between, I think, them. I'm trying not to miss anybody here in the badness, but in Georgia,
LSU.
I don't want to put Georgia. I don't know.
Georgia's not LSU. With them. It's LSU and South Carolina, or I think it's them. They're.
I was trying to make a quick decision on whether I was going to include Georgia in there, but no, South Carolina and LSU are by far the
Ole Miss is sort of they're flirting around down there.
Ole Miss is all. Yeah, there are some bad teams in this conference. There are also some really good teams, and then there are a bunch of teams that I think could all beat each other on any given night. LSU is not one of those teams that's going to beat anybody on any given night. Vanderbilt, to lose to this LSU team, would have to play their D game. I would say they can lose. I'm not saying that they can roll out there and play awful and beat LSU. There's a chance they can lose. They would have to play their D game. LSU would have to play their A game. I mean, that's the talent differential that is there. LSU will have to be intrigued extraordinarily well compared to earlier in the season than when I've watched them, because that's just not a particularly great LSU team. I don't have any like player stats or any analytics. I've just watched their team play 5-6 times, and I've been thoroughly unimpressed every single time I watched them play. Could be wrong. When I'm this confident, usually something really, really bad happens, but I would guess the line sitting at like 9.5, 10.5 if they're feeling real spicy. If Vegas is trying to get money on the other side on a really bad LSU team.
And where can people find these numbers, Mr. Byrum?
They can find them, as I forgot to do the read because that's what I was initially trying to pull up. Yeah, that sponsor. What is that, Billy? You're probably wondering, where can I find
what's
the lines that we're talking about here?
Show me the money.
Is they're not released yet, but where can I find them? Pickett. EIKKIT. Automatically sync all of your favorite sports books, shop lines, track performances, and explore bets across your community, all on the Pickett app. With Pickett, you can see all your sports betting accounts in one place to track your past performance and see upcoming bets. Compare your stats from week to week and month to month at a click of a button. Engage with your community. I'm not going to read the rest of this, but Pickett is going to have all the stats you need, where the money is flowing in. Once they do officially release the line across all the sports books, you can check in one spot in the Pickett app. Again, that is PIKKIT. I've tweeted out the link a couple times. Use the referral code TDR. And once you sync your first sports book, you will either receive $3 or $100 cash money Venmo to you. So use the code TDR at sign up. Uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter, but Pickett will have those lines for you once they are released for the game against LSU coming up tomorrow. But where do you think the line will be there,
I think
Trevor?
it's.
I'm sure you're thinking pretty similar. It wasn't too controversial of a take.
No, I think it's 10. I think it's at least 10. I don't know that. I mean, I think there's going to be every bit of money coming in on Vandy, so I don't think there's going to be much movement. I mean, it could be somewhere around 11 or 12, but I think at least 10 would be a good barometer.
It's
Trevor,
always just double digit. I think they're always cautious to do double digit, favorites in conference on the road from not, one of the elite teams in the conference. That's kind of like, that would draw in eyes when I like to take a step back from like a better, not knowing anything. If I just took a step back from the SEC, seeing not, Alabama or Tennessee or even traditionally Kentucky is like a double digit road favorite over anyone would draw me in to look into that game just a little more. So Vegas might be cautious to leave it at 9.5.
And these late season games are dangerous for teams like LSU because, they're, I don't know, but you would say they're desperate, but even Vandy, when they were really bad under Drew and Stack, like they would win like a random game like this, like towards the end of the season, like for no reason, and they would take pride in it. It's like you're 2-14. So I think, I'm not saying Vandy needs to beware, but they sort of do because it's at LSU. It just feels a little game. It feels eerily dangerous in kind of a scared way. But yeah, I would say 10. But then again, Will, it'll probably realistically be 8.5 or 9 or so, somewhere in that range. But Will, I wanted to ask you before we close out, did you get to see what the money distribution but for the Auburn Vandy game was there? Because what did it end up being? 3.5?
Yeah, I think it started out, I actually predicted it right. And then I think some money came in on Auburn and pushed it out another point. And I think Auburn did end up being 3.5. I know that Vanderbilt early, the money line was like plus 140. Let me find the actual
because I didn't
flowed in and out.
I never got to look at that before that game. But with Vandy at home, I think it was sort of a trendy pick to go with Vandy there. But yeah, I would say 8.5, 9, somewhere around there, Trevor. But then again, Vandy they've done well in these sort of games that might be trap games. Like that South Carolina game, I was a little scared, but they just got to take care of business. But then again, margin for error would be nice here.
Yeah, I think too. I think just like being a fan, the trap games always scared you. Like those are the ones to where like going up against Tennessee, you're like, dude, just like do whatever. Like you have nothing to lose. But whenever like for Vanderbilt, like this late in the season, to where like you actually do have something to lose now. Yeah. I think something like LSU would be really, really scary. I'm gonna say, I'll say 8.5, 9.
Mm-hmm.
That feels safe.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be shocked if it opens up at something lower. I wouldn't be shocked if it opens lower than 10. I like an 8 or 8.5, and then maybe it boosts up a little bit.
Yep. I think we're probably somewhere all close to right. Honestly, it'll probably fluctuate a little bit.
I think Vandy has to cover, though. They have to cover in this game, no matter what it is. If it's 8.5, 9, 10, 11, 12, they got to cover. I think this is a game where
I got that money flow pulled up here as well for the Auburn game. So on the spread, 78% of the money came in on Vanderbilt. And 67% of the bets came in on Vanderbilt on the spread. And then even as an underdog, 38% of the money and 39% of the bets came in on Vanderbilt. Just money.
That's what I thought.
As the underdog. So yeah, there was definitely some money flowing in on the Vanderbilt side. And
what was the final line for that game?
3.5, I think. It was 3.5 for Auburn.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah. So, well, that's the thing though. Vanderbilt is a trendy underdog money line bet right now. If they are not favored in a game, that's what they've been doing. They upset Tennessee. I don't think they were favored against Florida. They weren't favored against Auburn. They're pulling these off. And so that's another pressure point here for Vandy where you've got people.
Remember, they were like 9-point underdogs against Florida. I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
that was
huge
preposterous
against Florida. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's going to be a different Florida game. I mean, I'm not saying I hate saying it's
Colin
easier,
Castleton ain't coming
but
out there, guys. Yeah.
without Castleton, that's a Florida team that's not want to walk into Memorial Gym and probably a snake pit of Memorial. So, boy, beefy episode. We got to everything. We got to the tourney chances. We got to the win over Auburn and a little bit of a preview. Not that we really need to preview LSU, but we'll get you guys ready for Florida 90s night for Vandy against Florida. Stack is going to come out in something wild. I already know. That's going to be fun. Vandy.
The theme for this is still violence is still on the menu, Vandy fans. We're doing 90s violence, though. We're doing organized crime, Tony Soprano type
Mafia.
violence. It's still on the menu. Bring your tennis balls, baby. Bring them.
By the way, Trevor has a new mic as well, so you'll be able to hear him erupt, which is going to be nice. You're not going to it's not going to buffer and censor your eruptions, which are fantastic.
Hey, friends, family, and listeners, God forbid Vandy makes the tournament, because this mic might explode. It legitimately might combust.
You're going to be going back to Best Buy after
someone's gonna try and fight me in the Best Buy parking lot again. Don't go to the Rivergate Best Buy. Somebody's gonna try and fight you over a parking spot.
Don't go to the Rivergate Best Buy, but you better be at Memorial on Saturday for 90s night. Earlier tip, 5 o'clock.
I almost fought a guy so I could talk about Vanderbilt athletics tonight, guys. You better be at Memorial on Saturday.
Be there, be square. Vandy, Florida coming up Saturday. LSU and Vandy coming up tomorrow on Mardi Gras. So stay tuned for that. We'll be watching. You've been listening to the episode of The Door Report powered by Alaco Fine Wood Floors.